Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome on board the Millennium of Peace for your trip down to the Tower of London, and we also go down to Greenwich. And to let you know what we'll do now, briefly we make a stop at the London Eye. We'll be there for 2 minutes and then we start the journey down. When we leave the pier at the London Eye, it's a law requirement that we give you a safety announcement, so I'll do that when we leave. And it is up to you. We do pass many places of interest along the way. And if you'd like me to, I'll stand out here with you and point them all out in the form of a commentary. Is that okay? Would you like a commentary? No problem. We'll be leaving shortly and we'll speak again.
Paying the same price.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the way we go forward. This is the way we go forward.
Yes.
TV adaptations.
It just was suitable and eligible. It's also it's like because they have
Yeah, that's right. You got a section, the other section, the other side.
Ladies and gents, as you can see, we're leaving Waterloo Pier, the London Eye, and making our way now down to the Tower of London and then on to Greenwich. And as we leave the piers on the river, a law requirement is that we give you a safety announcement. And of course, that isn't to alarm you in any way, just to let you know that the boat's equipped with the up-to-date life safety. The life rafts on board, they're located on the outer route of the boat. And there are life jackets for all of you. Store them around the vessel, and of course, out the room, and you've got three of us on board. Me, I've got two very good friends in there. We're all captains from in, and in the very unlikely event of an emergency today, good luck. I'm sure you'll be fine. Is everybody happy? Good, and on our boat we like to keep you happy, and I know a few of you did ask if there'd be some sort of commentary on the way down to the tower. And what we do have on board is a computer, and it points out all of these buildings in a very boring way, so we don't use it. On our boat we get better feedback when we do the commentaries live, so is that okay? Would you like a live commentary instead? Yeah? Just bear in mind, say we are only the crew, so don't expect too much, but I'll do my best. And we'll start up to the right hand side with the London Eye, and it stands 450 feet tall. 32 glass capsules, and each capsule represents an area of London. There are 32 boroughs in London. Each capsule can carry 25 people, and on a very clear day, you can see 30 miles across London at the time. You can even hire out a glass capsule on the wheel for £1,000. And you can now get married on the London Eye. And I don't recommend it. Marriage. The London Eye, a great attraction. Marriage, not so much. They built it in the year 2000, and the way they got it here, they towed it into London by the river with tugs and barges, and they then built the wheel flat onto the river before they lifted it into the upright position. British Airways built it, and as they were trying to lift up the wheel, Richard Branson, he flew a plane over London with a banner on the back. The banner read, British Airways can't get it up. It took them 3 attempts to lift it, which I thought was great. The first bridge we pass under, Charing Cross Bridge, a unique bridge overlook. And the reason I say it's unique, as we pass under a railway line, we'll pass over another. The Bakerloo line on the underground service, it sits directly below. And a bit of a tradition in London, for those of you on the top deck, wave to the people on the bridge. And they say that if anyone waves back, it will bring you 5 years of luck. And if they don't wave back, leave London.
Ah, weshalb?
And there is another one the other side. Keep waving, keep smiling. Hopefully they won't try it. On the right hand side, the Royal Festival Hall. And that's the last remaining building from the Festival of Great Britain, 1951. A post-war morale boosting festival. Many famous people have played inside, like Liza Minnelli, Michael Jackson, Elton John, Frank Sinatra, Whitney Houston, to name a few. And if you have your cameras ready, take a photo on the left. London's oldest monument, the stone column on the roof. Cleopatra's Needle, 3,500 years old. Given to us from a thankful Egyptian government for the victory over Napoleon and the French at the Battle of the River Boat. And there is a twin to that needle in America. It's in Central Park. And the bridge, Waterloo Bridge, we call it the Ladies' Bridge in London. Constructed by ladies. The men were away, they were fighting. So the ladies, they built the bridge. They did a fantastic job, and they even faced the bridge in a self-cleansing stone. So every time it rains in London, the bridge gets a thorough clean. Look beneath it, very dirty where the rain doesn't penetrate, and on the outside, still as good as it. And ladies, your big needs to know that is the only bridge in London finished on time and under budget. So well done to the girls. And on the right, we have the building, the concrete building with the flashing signboard. Looks a little bit like a car park. And that's actually London's Royal National Theatre. You wouldn't think so to look at it. It gets voted year after year as the ugliest building in London. And I'm sure you'll agree. But you know what they say, you mustn't judge a book by the cover. Inside, that ugly building are 3 of the best theatres in the country. And a famous boat on the left-hand side. The black and white boat, they're actually breaking it up, they're scrapping it. But years ago, that was the Royal Barge in London, the St. Catherine's. If any time a member of our royal family came onto the river, that's the boat they went out on years ago. And they don't use that anymore. They built a new boat, a golden hand-painted boat called the Gloriana. So if the King or William comes, then they go to the Gloriana. When Harry comes to London, they sit. That's the spare boat. Also on the left, we have the concrete archway, stone archway, temple arch or temple gate. And that's a boundary line between 2 cities. The city of Westminster, we leave behind us now, and the 1 square mile, the city of London, we enter into. Nobody knows it, but if you look to the right, you'll notice that we do have some of the finest beaches in the world in London. Look at that. A golden, sandy, tropical forest. If you fancy a bit of sunbathing, that's the favourite. The South Bank Riviera. And the red brick building on the right is called Stamford Wharf, a refrigeration warehouse for many years, taken over by Oxford. And on top of that building, where the glass canopy is, you'll find a restaurant, the Harvey Nichols Oxford, one of the top 5 in London.
You know why they did the windows that way?
Huh?
You know why they did the windows that way? For the Oxford.
Oh, it's to get past an advertising ban on the
Exactly,
Thames.
yeah. Which obviously isn't the case at all. Fucking no.
On the left-hand side, we have the white building with the green roof, and that's the old City of London School, where most of our past Prime Ministers, Members of Parliament, gained their early education, before going on to Oxford or Cambridge universities. And the building today was owned by a bank, JP Morgan owned it. And ahead of the boat, we have the Blackfriars Bridges. They are known in London as the Bridges of Love. And we have a tradition. As you pass through these bridges, you give your loved one a kiss. And that is said to bring you many years of happiness. So don't be shy, hook her up. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not with your loved one today, then you could kiss your husband or your wife. That works the same. Any single ladies can come and kiss me. Any single gentlemen, my friends in there are very open-minded. Kiss them. One kiss, no tongues. That's the masterpiece of Sir Christopher Wren, and it took him 35 years to construct. It stands 365 feet high, 1 foot for every day of the year, above the dome of viewing platform, of which you can stand on and look over London. However, you do have to walk to the top. You climb up 527 steps. But the views are well worth it. And that's it for you. There is a way to visit St Paul's for free, and a way to look at there free of charge, and you can watch a service. So that's a great experience to see a service. And I say it's free. It is a church. They'll get you at the end. A gentleman, he walks around that building with a silver champagne bucket, and if you've enjoyed the service, you put some money into the bucket. As I'm sure you can all imagine, it's very quiet inside. And so they do encourage the silent donation as a note, 5, 10, 20 or a £50 note if you've really enjoyed it. Now on the right, we've got the round white building with the thatched roof, and that's a replica of William Shakespeare's Globe Theatre, and it's the only building in London to be allowed a thatched roof since the Great Fire of London. And you can go in there, you can watch a show being acted out in the traditional manner. No stage lighting, no sound effects like microphones. It's all done as it would have been done during Shakespeare's day. And I recommend the Globe. That's one of London's cheaper attractions. I mean, the cheapest tickets they sell are £10. And £10 for live entertainment in London is great value. I mean, a couple of pints of beer on this boat will cost you £10. And you can watch a show. How are we doing so far, folks? Is everyone enjoying the live commentary? Good. Hopefully you can all understand me okay. I do try to speak a little bit slower and a little bit clearer. I understand we have passengers from all over the world, and I do try to speak extra slow so that our American friends can join it. You're welcome. On the right, a pub. A lovely pub, the Anchor. And there's been a pub there since 1650, and that's a famous pub. It starred in a few movies like James Bond, Mission Impossible, and Gets Him to the Greek more recently. So of course, many famous people have been inside that pub. And me and my two friends in there, we go to that pub every night after work to research for this college. And it takes us hours and hours. And we don't enjoy it, but we do it for you. I know. Sometimes we research so much, we actually forget the next day what we've done. And we will be researching tonight. In the dock on the right hand side, a pirate ship for the kids. A working replica of Francis Drake's Golden Hind. Francis Drake, he was the first Englishman to sail a ship around the world, and that ship has been around the world twice. It's in fully working. And the bridge, London Bridge, the 5th London Bridge to stand here in 2,000 years. The first one, it was a wooden bridge, and it was built by the Romans. It burnt down. And as I'm sure you know from the nursery rhyme, most of the others fell down. All but one, and that was number 4. The 4th London Bridge today is in America. In the 1970s, we sold it to a businessman called Robert McCulloch. He then shipped it to Arizona, where he rebuilt London Bridge at Lake Havasu City, where it stands today. Has anybody seen it? You've seen the bridge? There's not much else there, are there?
It's so good.
I'd love to go and see it one day. But say I wouldn't go all that way just to see the bridge. So maybe I'll tie it in with a trip to Vegas. Now up to the right, the tallest building in our country, that's the Shard of Glass. And it stands at over 1,000 feet high. And inside the Shard, a 6-star hotel. Bars, restaurants, offices, and apartments. Designed by an Italian architect called Renzo Piano. He designed the Shard of Glass. A very clever man, in fact, because they offered him £2 million for his design of that building, and he declined it. He said no. He said, if you want my design, I want the 4-bed penthouse of London, and they gave it to him. He sold that penthouse 2 years later to will.i.am the rapper, £48 million, which isn't bad, is it? For drawing a triangle. I can do that. And the warship on the right hand side, HMS Belfast, built in the same shipyard as the Titanic, the ill-fated ship. And she last saw action throughout the Korean campaign. That's where she last fired her guns in anger. 6 guns at the front and 6 at the back. And each gun fires a 100-weight shell 14 miles. A very powerful ship. Permanently moored in London today as an extension to the Imperial War Museum. That flag flying on the front of the ship, the Union Jack, the only Union Jack in London, which does sound a little bit funny. You see that same flag flying on various buildings, but in fact you can only call it a Union Jack when it's flown from the jackstaff, the wooden flagpole of a Royal Navy ship. Any other time you see that flag, it's simply called a Union flag. Did anybody know that? No? That's because I just made it up. No, I didn't. That bit's true. I made the rest up. Exactly. Now, ahead of us, we have Tower Bridge. And shortly I'll tell you about the bridge. But firstly, I'd like to tell you about the Tower of London on the left, as I know a few of you are going there today. And the Tower of London, it's been many things in its time, like a royal mint where they made money, an observatory, a prison, a palace, and a zoo. Most famously known as a place of execution and torture. On the river wall to the left, you can see the blocked up archway with the words above it, and they read entry to the Traitors' Gate. And if you were found guilty of treason years ago, if you were a traitor to the crown, then you would have been rowed down to here from Westminster by a waterman like us, probably without the commentary one. And you would have been rowed through London's first one-way street, taken to the bloody tower, and that is where they would have chopped off your head years ago with a large blunt axe. And if you were famous, it didn't end there. The tower, they would have knocked London Bridge, commonly mistaken for London Bridge, and that's behind the boat. And Tower Bridge, as I'm sure you know, it opens to let taller masted ships into the upper pool of London. And on average, as I said earlier, it opens about 5 times a week. We get cruise liners come up through Tower Bridge. We get warships come up through the bridge that visit HMS Belfast. And the most the bridge is opened in one 24-hour period was 46 times. And that gives you a bit of an indication as to how busy the river used to be with shipping years ago. At one time, this was the busiest port in the world, the Port of London. Now, on the right-hand side, Butler's Wharf, a tea warehouse years ago, and ships like the Cutty Sark, which you'll see when we get down to Greenwich. They used to race to Butler's Wharf, delivering chests of tea from China. And the reason why they'd race, the ship that got here first would get the best price for their cargo. Today, Butler's Wharf is a nice place to go and have a bite to eat. And I'll recommend the restaurant over there, that little white one on the end. That's called the Chop House. It's very nice. Lovely view over Tower Bridge whilst you eat. There are a few other restaurants over there, the Pont de la Tour, Cantina, all bar one grounds, and the white building on the right hand side. A lot of people ask me about it. That's the Blueprint Cafe. And of a daytime it's a design museum, of an evening time a fish restaurant. And you can see this lovely private yacht on the right hand side, the Chaos, a beautiful boat, worth over £300 million, and it's actually owned by the gentleman that owns Walmart. He bought it for his granddaughter, which isn't a bad present name. I've seen a lot of these boats come up into London, and this is probably the nicest one in my opinion. So I've just had a week off, so it's actually my first day back today, and I was just speaking to my friend in there. Usually we find out about these boats, we find out what's inside them and what they've got, what they've not got. This one's been kept very private, no one knows anything about it, apart from the fact it costs over £20 million a year to run the boat, which is ridiculous. But when you've got money like that, you know that. Now on the left hand side, we've got some newer buildings. The green glass apartments, Hermitage Wharf, they're called. And a lot of the architects who work on the banks of the river, they work with a theme. So they design buildings to look like something, and it never works. Those buildings on the left hand side, would anyone like to have a guess, first of all, at what it's supposed to look like?
Boats.
We usually get ships, boats, and children say spaceships, but no. They are actually supposed to look like French soldiers marching. And I don't know what the architect was smoking when he built them, but to me, that looks more like a ship. And being next to the river, of course, that's where everyone is. But no, this is what it looks like. And if you follow the buildings along on the left hand side, you can see the blue and white square building, and that is the river police, the Wapping River Police, the oldest uniformed police force in the world, and they were invented to tackle piracy. Pirates were rife on the river years ago. 30% of cargo that came into London was lost, it was stolen. And the common form of punishment for piracy, execution. They hung the pirates on the left hand side. They hung them from the river wall on the left. And they would then wait for 3 tides to rise above a pirate's head before they pronounced them dead. That cruel execution, it became famous. And it became known as the Grace of Wapping. Wapping's the name of the area on the left hand side. And it was carried out by a famous judge, the hanging judge they call him, Judge Jeffreys. And here's our base on the right hand side, Cherry Garden Pier in Bermondsey. This was an old signalling pier years ago for Tower Bridge. Of course today it's all done electronically, but years ago as ships were approaching the bend, they would signal from this pier to open Tower Bridge for the ships. And if we stay to the right hand side, just start to follow the buildings along there, we come to a nice pub, the Angel. The nice thing about the Angel pub is the view behind the pub. A lovely view of the Tower Bridge. And we finished work there every night. So 90% of our work does take place in the Angel. We sit there for hours. And the area to the right now is called Maritime. That's an old English word, river haven, a safe place. And it's of interest to any Americans because there's a bit of American history in Maritime. If you follow the buildings down, you'll see a white church spire, and that's St Mary's Church. And buried in the grounds of that church is a famous man, and he's named Captain Christopher Jones. He was the captain of a great famous ship called the Mayflower. And the Mayflower was of course the ship that left London to go and carry the Pilgrim Fathers over to the Promised Land, to what we all now call America. And you'll see in a moment, there's a pub coming up on the right, you'll see 2 flags in a minute. You'll see the Union flag of Great Britain and the Stars and Stripes of the United States. This is the pub. The pub's called the Mayflower, and it's a nice photo because on the roof of the pub you'll pub, they can trace their family tree back. And if you go to that pub, on the wall in there, they have the names of every person who bought the ship. And I've got a good link to the Americans. No one's Christmas in that church. This is where I'm from, by the way. So if anyone wants to visit that pub, come and see me when you get on. I'll direct you all the way to it. And I'll probably see you in there about 8 o'clock. Do a bit of research. There you go, look at that. There's the weather vane on top of the pub. An old school pub. The only thing that isn't old fashioned about that pub, I'm sure you can imagine, are the prices. They're not too bad compared to some of the other pubs. And if you look back to the left hand side, you can see a few older buildings that still retain a bit of character, like New Great Metropolitan Hall, and the little white pub coming up on the left, the Prospect of Whitby. That is one of the oldest pubs on the river, and it dates back 300 years. Originally, that pub was called the Pelican, and it's had many nicknames over the years. The most famous nickname is the Devil's Punch Bowl, because of the likes of people, the criminals of London, thieves, murderers, press gangers, and of course, ladies of the night. And if you visit that pub today, you'll notice that it hasn't changed much. It's still vacated by the criminals of London, although they come in a different form now. Bankers, estate agents, politicians, they're the real criminals, and they all drink in there. The Prospect of Whitby. But they do really nice food in that pub. So if you're looking for somewhere to go, a nice pub, with tradition, Prospect of Whitby should be top of your list. And ironically, the newest pub on the river is the Sark. That's on the right hand side. And that's not a bad pub either. The architect of this building was very clever. They designed it so that every apartment inside has a river view. And a river view in London doubles the price of every apartment. So they made maximum profit out of that development. A very clever design. We have Globe Wharf on the right hand side. That's the building with the crane on the front. And originally, this was a rice warehouse. People say this was the most rat-infested building on the river, which you can believe, being a rice warehouse. Today, for an apartment in there, overlooking the river, you'll pay no less than £700,000, which isn't bad for an old rat-infested warehouse. You don't see many houses on the river, you see lots of flats and apartments. We do have one really nice house on the left hand side. You can see the garden on the left with the willow tree in it. And just before that, there's a building with a round window at the top and a glass conservatory the other side. That's one house. It's called Sunwolf, and it was owned by David Lean. And David Lean, he was a film producer. He produced films like Lawrence of Arabia, Gandhi, Dr. Zhivago, Passage to India, and he used to that house. And inside that house you'll find 8 bedrooms, a 60-seat cinema, a rooftop pool where the conservatory is, a lovely garden, and an underground car. He passed away sadly, David Lee, and that house sold for over 20 million. It's a beautiful house. The funny thing about it is, you never see anybody there. The only person you ever see is the gardener. And he stays to the left, and we've got these townhouses just there. If you start to follow the townhouses along, shortly you'll see a flight of steps that lead down onto the foreshore. And this is another pub. It's a tiny little pub called the Grapes, and you'll see it as we get closer. It's a famous pub made famous by Charles Dickens. It was in the Grapes where he wrote Great Expectations, and it is owned by a famous man today. Sir Ian McKellen owns the pub, better known to all of us as Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Would you like to know where he lives, Gandalf? I'm not really allowed to tell you, but he may or may not like yellow statues. Didn't hear that. And he's home today. You can see his doors are open. All that pink furniture outside. That's Ian McKellen's. And the Canary Wharf development on the left hand side, they call it the mini Manhattan. The tall tower in the middle with the light at the top, that's called number 1 Canada Square. The name of the area is Canary Wharf, and they accommodate 100,000 bankers a day. A very busy part of London. I avoid it. I don't like the bankers. However, of a weekend, it's not a bad place to visit. Saturday, Sunday, a nice place to go for a meal or a few pints. A bit of shopping maybe, there's some good shopping at Canary Wharf. But as I say, avoid it Monday to Friday. It's absolutely full of bankers. I did say bankers, didn't I? Good. I'm glad you agree. And as we round this bend, ladies and gents, look down in front of the boat. All we really have down in this part of the river are flats and the pub. And all I can really tell you about them is what you know already. They're very nice, very expensive, and I don't own any of them. So if you'd like me to, I'll just tell you a little bit about the river instead. Is that okay? Well, look at the River Thames, and it's got a funny colour to it. And that's because it's a mud-based river. It's one of the cleanest industrial rivers in the world now. And the reason why it looks like that, it's a tidal river. So the tide floods into London from the North Sea for 5 hours. It then leaves London for 7 hours, constantly churning up the mud at the bottom. So the mud, it floats up to the top, and the water, it becomes quite burnt. Now we've done this. If you take a glass of this river water and you leave it for about half an hour, all of the sand, all of the mud sinks down to the bottom. The water becomes crystal clear. And they even say you can drink it if you want to. It will probably kill you, but you can drink it if you want to. It's up to you. So don't drink it. And if you do, don't tell anyone that I told you, because it will kill you. People ask me about the wildlife and the fish in the river. Over 100 different species of fish back in the river. If you were to fish in this area, you'd catch perch, panda, flatfish and eels. The river is crawling alive with eels. We see seals almost every day. We see porpoises like small dolphins. And a few of you may remember, about 6 years ago, we had a 13-foot pilot whale swim through London. And it swam all the way through the bridge from Westminster where we picked you up. And it beached itself. And since then, we've had beluga whales, all sorts of different wildlife back in the bridge. And that just goes to show you how clean it is today. Because if it wasn't clean, you wouldn't get the fish. And folks, what we're going to do, just until we're at the bend ahead of us, we'll give you a little break. A chance maybe to go down to the bar if you'd like to, or to go to the toilets. They're downstairs at the back of the boat. And if you do smoke or vape, you can smoke at the back of the open top there. And I'll speak to you as we get a bit closer to Greenwich. Have you all enjoyed it? Good stuff. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you again shortly.
I don't know, it wouldn't be that long, would it? Oh, then again, it's at the top of Greenwich Peninsula, wouldn't it, if we get off, isn't it?
It's like I would have to get the next back catch toilets and returns. Because if it's going to be another hour and a half, it's going to get us to 3 o'clock by the time we get back.
Yeah.
It'll be 3 o'clock by the time we get back at that end. We've got to get to the courthouse hotel quickly. So I think that maybe it's maybe not worth it.
Yeah. yeah, probably as everyone sort of sees London as basically from the Houses of Parliament to Tower Bridge, and of course Isle of Dogs is quite a way up the river from Tower Bridge, and then of course Greenwich is like you have to completely circumnavigate the Isle of Dogs. Mr. Cutty Sark. Because the Maritime Museum's right near there. No.
Just want to check it's the same boat we go back.
Yeah. Ah, there it is there. The National Maritime Museum.
line in. And they say the shipping speed is 13 knots. To put that into perspective for you, our maximum speed on this boat, 2 big engines, is about 12. And that ship sailed at 30. So it's a great achievement. And if you look behind the ship, at the top of it here on the right, there's a green dome-shaped building and a red ball on a T-piece. That's a timepiece, and that's where you get GMT, Greenwich. Every night at 5 minutes to 1, the ball rises up slowly to the top, and at 1 o'clock it drops. You could blink, you'll miss it, and that's when you set your clock. 1 o'clock GMT. You've also got the meridian line, 0 degrees longitude, where the eastern hemisphere it means. And they actually call Greenwich the centre of the universe. And you've arrived at the centre of the universe. Now folks, whatever you're doing, Greenwich, have a lovely time. Boats return and the last one we extend is to 10 to 6 with the last returning boat up into the. And I did say earlier on, please make sure that you've got your belongings with you as you're getting off. Don't leave anything on board that might spoil your day. And I mentioned the word about the commentary. As I said, we are only the crew, and we do these commentaries live on our boat to make your journey a bit more interesting, a bit more enjoyable. And we don't like to play the computer that the company provides. Some of the other boats, they play it all day long. We do all the commentaries live. And as we said earlier, if you've enjoyed it, if you've understood the tradition in London, we leave the champagne bucket, the old tip bucket, down at the exit door. Feel free to drop in whatever you like as you leave the boat. And as I said, whatever we do collect does go towards the research that we'll carry out after work in the boat. But thank you very much for coming out onto the river. I hope you've had a nice time. You picked a lovely day for it. And enjoy the rest of your day in London. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we've got enough time to pop off for a couple of minutes. Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Nah. It'd be over in that direction. Yeah.